Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Mysteries from Beyond the Other Dominion. I'm your host, Dr. Franklin Ruehl, and today a very special edition, The Mystifying Realm of Death. Yes, I said death. For example, we'll investigate incorruptible cadavers, tell you about the immortal Count Saint-Germain, investigate Mark Twain's precognitive death dream, and critique the 1949 murder mystery, Too Late for Tears, starring Elizabeth Scott and Dan Duryea, and cover other intriguing subjects, time, of course, permitting. But first, incorruptible cadavers. Now, around the world, there are at least 200 cadavers that have been identified as incorruptible. That is, they've suffered no decomposition or decay whatsoever after years or even centuries of being buried. And that's without mummification or embalming. Approximately half of them are found in Italy. The best-known early case deals with a woman known as Saint Zita. She died in 1279. 300 years later, her followers wanted her to achieve sainthood. So her body was disinterred and found to be incorruptible. And that's one of the signs of a saint, that their body has not decayed in the grave. Probably the best-known saint would be Saint Bernadette, who is incorruptible. We also have three popes, Pius XI and John the 9th and 10th. And around the globe, we found other incorruptibles. For example, a group of them was found in Mexico and in Colombia, down in South America, and San Bernardo. They found 19 contemporary cadavers, a few who died of cancer and other diseases, all incorruptible. And those individuals have been put on display where tourists come to see them. Now, it's not just those who have led saintly lives that are incorruptible, ordinary people. There is the case of a knight, a German knight, evil German knight, Frederick von Kulbutz, who actually murdered a shepherd and was known for other nefarious deeds. He got off scot-free for the murder because of his status. He died in 1703 in Germany. Then in 1796 at the Kempole church, where he and his relatives were buried, there was a renovation project. When they were disinterred, it was found everyone else had decayed, but not the evil knight. And today, his body still has not decayed and is on display for all to come and visit. Now, what causes incorruptibility? Scientists have analyzed a number of these corpses. They've come to no definite conclusion. It may be environmental factors depending on where the individual was buried. It also might be something genetic, where they have a genetic predisposition to incorruptibility. Or it might be dietary. Something that they ate in life has preserved their bodies in death. Or, intriguingly, possibly some sort of paranormal phenomenon. We simply do not know. We know that some individuals are incorruptible, and probably there are thousands more around the globe who haven't been disinterred to determine if they are incorruptible. But a very intriguing mystery, incorruptibility. Now for the man who may have achieved immortality, Count Saint-Germain. Now he was born, we believe, in 1690, possibly to a Transylvanian prince, or conceivably the son of a Spanish king or a Portuguese Jew. We don't know. He achieved prominence in the 1750s in the court of Louis XV. He always dressed immaculately with gemstones embedded in his clothing. He claimed that he achieved alchemy. That is, he was able to transmute base metals into gold and also create pure diamonds, sapphires, and pearls. Voltaire, the well-known philosopher, said that Saint-Germain knew everything and never aged. Now, he attributed his youth and longevity to, of all things, oatmeal. And we know today that scientists say that oatmeal is excellent for reducing cholesterol and preserving cardiovascular health. So perhaps Count Saint-Germain was onto something. He also said he was precognitive and had lived past lives dating back to the biblical era. Now, he realized that his life was in danger in the court of the French king. So in 1760, he went to England. In 1762, he journeyed to Russia, where he helped Catherine the Great achieve power. He was next seen in the 1770s in the court of Louis XVI. He warned them that there would be a French Revolution in the next 15 years. And indeed, he then went to Germany and spent 15 years with Prince George working on alchemical experiments. He was said to possibly have died in 1796, but then he showed up again in the Near East in the 1800s, in Vienna in 1824, and was last reported in Tibet in 1796. If Count Saint-Germain is alive today, he'd be over 300 years old. And you might ask, if he is immortal, is alive today, why hasn't he come forward? He could go on the talk shows, go on the internet, write books, etc., become very famous. Well, perhaps he's afraid that some kook might try to kill him and end his immortality, or might be afraid of being kidnapped by scientists who try to determine why he was immortal, or some rich man who tried to extract his DNA so he could achieve immortality too. So there are good reasons why someone who had achieved immortality might keep a low profile. Personally, I'm hoping he's made it. Yes, Count Saint-Germain, the immortal. Now it's time for the realm of bizarre death news, but first, the trivia question of the day. Let me extricate it here from its paper prison. The question: what is the fear of death called? Multiple choice, inverse alphabetical order. Is that vestiophobia, zonotophobia, skyophobia, iatrophobia, dorophobia, or blenophobia? Now the only prize for the correct answer is one pat on the back, which is a heck of a lot better than a slap on the belly with a wet trout. Of course, you'll have to administer to it yourself. If you want $1 million, call Meredith Vieira, but please, please do not call us. We do not have any operators on our lines to take your calls, and we don't have prizes. Can't afford prizes, certainly not $1 million. I'll take a sip of water and be back momentarily with the correct answer. Okay, I'm calling time, and let's take a look at the 6 possible answers for the fear of death. Is it vestiophobia, zonotophobia, skyophobia, iatrophobia, dorophobia, or blenophobia? And is that your final answer, vestiophobia? No, it's zonotophobia. And for the record, vestiophobia, fear of clothes, skyophobia, shadows, iatrophobia, doctors, dorophobia, fur, and blenophobia, slime, just in case you're ever on that millionaire show. Now, speaking of death, we have, first of all, an interesting innovation in Tarrytown, New York, at the Zan Bridge. Over the past 10 years there, 25 individuals have jumped off committing suicide. So the city fathers have now added 4 emergency anti-suicide phones to the bridge, 2 on either side, with signs indicating that if you're thinking of suicide, call the hotline first. It may save some lives. I think this is an excellent idea. It should be instituted around bridges throughout the world where there are suicides, such as the Golden Gate up in San Francisco. Might save a few people's lives. Definitely a good idea. And here we have let's go to the cow. In India, they have now discovered a plant, a carnivorous plant, that actually eats cows. It's in Pardam, India. Recently, a farmer and his associates pulled a cow away from this huge plant that was trying to ingest the cow. And a few have died. It's also grabbed a few children. You may recall the 1957 film Voodoo Island with Boris Karloff, where huge carnivorous plants were grabbing people and children. Well, apparently, this is a reality in one part of India, a plant that actually tries to grab and ingest cows beyond belief. Now we have a little coffin here. And first of all, we have a case down in Orlando, Florida, of a man who entered a church where there's a funeral going on. It was an open casket. He went up and started punching the dear deceased. And the other attenders, the mourners, were so shocked they ran up and grabbed him. Apparently, these men were enemies in life. The man came in to administer punishment to this hated rival before he was buried. I've never heard of that happening before. Punching out a cadaver at a funeral, beyond belief. And actually, we have an interesting case in Ohio. It's the Glendale Funeral Home in Akron. They're now allowing pets to be buried with their human owners. The pets have to be cremated and placed in an urn, and they'll get their own little plaque. A great idea. Bonhor Funeral Home in Maryland also allows pets and humans to be buried together, only there they will even allow the full cadaver to be buried, such as one man's going to be buried with 6 of his favorite horses. I think all funeral parlors should allow that. All cemeteries, a great idea because people love their pets so much. And speaking of funeral parlors, one down in Melbourne, Australia, is now teaching the grave diggers how to use defibrillators because they find that about once every other month, one of the mourners during a funeral will collapse with a heart attack because obviously it's a stressful period and some of them are older, they've lost a loved one or a friend, and this could save their lives, allowing the grave diggers to use defibrillators. I think, again, all funeral homes should follow that practice. Great idea. And here we have a TP tube. And this pertains to, of all things, mammoth dung up in the Arctic Circle and Siberia. Because of global warming, permafrost has melted away, exposing the mammoth dung. And one scientist says there are literally thousands of tons of it. And what's happening is bacteria that have been inside in suspended animation are now awakening and converting through metabolism the dung into CO2 and methane, 2 powerful greenhouse gases. Actually, methane 20 times as potent as CO2. He says this, in time, could actually accelerate global warming and kill humans. So the solution, the Ruehl solution is cover that mammoth dung. Cover it up. Cover it up as soon as possible. Cover that mammoth dung and save lives. Yes. Okay. That ends this edition of the Realm of Bizarre Death News. Time to tell you about Mark Twain's precognitive dream. Mark Twain, of course, Samuel Clemens, back in the 1850s, he and his brother Henry were working on the steamship, the Pennsylvania, sailing up and down the Mississippi between New Orleans and St. Louis. One night, Mark awoke after a terrifying nightmare in which he saw his brother laid out in an open coffin. Strangely, the coffin was metal, and at the last moment, a beautiful woman came in and placed a bouquet of white flowers on Henry's chest with a red rose in the center. Now, he awoke in a sweat, terrified by this dream, but nothing happened. Henry was okay. Fast forward 2 weeks later, Mark Twain was transferred to another steamship, and then a few days after that, the Pennsylvania pulled in to Memphis. 4 boilers exploded, many aboard killed, including his beloved brother. When he went to the funeral home, he saw that Henry was placed in a metal coffin. Now, that was unusual for that period. Most of the coffins were wooden, but the fair ladies of Memphis so admired Henry, they spent the money for this fancy coffin. Second element of the dream. First, Henry died, then in the metal coffin. The third element also came to pass when a beautiful woman came in with a bouquet of white flowers, placed it on Henry's chest. Yes, in the middle of that bouquet, a red rose. Mark Twain's precognitive death dream. Now let's see a death dream concerning the Titanic from One Step Beyond, starring Barbara Lord and Isabel Elsom. Roll tape.
This is what's wrong, dear. Darkwater, I was drowning. I couldn't swim anymore. I was drowning.
Oh, you just had one of those old-fashioned nightmares.
Oh, no.
I don't blame you. All this excitement about the wedding. No wonder.
Frank was there. And I couldn't find him in the dark. And the water closed in over me. What does it mean?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You're wrong. It does mean something.
We can't go on that ship. It happened again. I dreamed.
No, darling, I do wish you wouldn't.
I saw the sea, cold sea. There were people struggling in the water.
Really?
Sinking. Dying.
Great.
And then a huge ship slid down.
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 Just a bad dream. Besides,
Now, there were many individuals who reported